Commissioners. John Chavez with the Department of Animal Services. We're going to start this board meeting of the Animal Services Commissioners for Tuesday, May 13th. As you can see, Ross Poole is not here, so I'll summon the most curmudgeonly sort of persona I can. Let's invite you as well. First item on the agenda is roll call. Commissioner Zaft.
Here.
Commissioner Yanez.
Here.
Commissioner Brent.
Here.
Commissioner Gross.
Here.
Commissioner Wolfson. Okay, we have 4 commissioners present. We have quorum. First, Commissioner Zaft, did you want to give an overview of today's agenda?
Yes, thank you. Welcome everyone to another Animal Services Commission meeting. Just wanted to give a summary of the agenda. So today we'll have our usual public comment period. That'll be followed by the approval of the minutes from 2 prior meetings. Then we'll get the oral report of the general manager. And then we'll get to the kind of the meat of the meeting. The discussion items include an update on the administrative citation program that was, I believe, passed by the City Council about a year ago. And we have someone from the City Attorney's Office, David Michelson, who will be giving us an update, and then also we'll get an update from Mark Salazar and John Orland. Yeah. That also, by the way, will include an overview of the fines and penalties, which is something that a number of us have asked for. We will also have an item, really a discussion, I think. I'll be interested to get comments from the public and comments from all of us on the commission regarding ways that we can increase the education and outreach concerning the spay, neuter, and licensing ordinances. And my hope there is that maybe we can come away with some ideas that we can share with the department, and maybe then get a report back and maybe some sort of proposal on how to move that forward. We have a follow-up item where regarding the reporting from best friends, from the New Hope partners, what kind of reports the department gets with respect to animals that are pulled by the New Hope partners or transferred by best friends from the city shelters to the Mission Hill shelter, and then with a specific item that we've been talking about with respect to being able to understand where the animals go that are transported. And then we have a board report regarding proposal by the ASPCA to donate money to help cover the New Hope fees. So that's the agenda today. One remark I try to always remind everyone of: during the general public comment period, that's the time to share public comments with us, share comments with us regarding items that are not on the agenda today. Any of the items on the agenda, there will be public comment periods when we take up those items. So the initial public comment period is to discuss items that are not agendized, and everybody gets 3 minutes each, no more. During that initial public comment period, of course, you don't have to use the 3 minutes. I don't think it'll be a problem today, but if you don't, then that would allow more people to speak. So with that, is there any comments?
I just wanted to make one statement now, and maybe we can remind people at the end that it's going to be extremely hot in LA over the next couple of days, and it's really important, especially for people listening in, that they make sure their pets are safe from the heat. And if it's hot for all of us, it's even hotter for the pets. And so if there's any issues that you see about your dog or cat gagging or something, get them to the vet as soon as possible. The department has posted on the Facebook page some tips to take care of your pets, and it's the responsibility of all of us to ensure the safety of our pets. So I hope that everyone will keep this in mind and do the appropriate things. So.
It's the responsibility of this department to try to keep you cool too, so we're asking General Services to lower the temperature in here a little bit.
Thank you, Commissioner Gross. Along those lines, I don't think anybody here needs to be told this, but leaving an animal in a car in this sort of day, in this sort of weather is a really bad idea. Anything else before we get started? Okay. So we're going to go right to public comment. Do we have any?
Yes, item number 1, public comment. We have several. First one up is Sue Taylor.
Okay. Remember, please state your name and where you live. Hi, Sue.
Hi, good morning. Sue Taylor, Actors and Others for Animals, which is located in North Hollywood, but I live in Vermont Hills. As you know, I just started coming back to the commission hearing, so I may have missed some things early on. So I just wanted to make a point on the pet point. I know that an RFP has gone out, but I have reservations about Pet Point for many reasons. One, of course, is the fact that it's internet-based, so everybody can get that information. The second is, I remember when Chameleon came in, and the people didn't know how to use it. I mean, it was a mess, an absolute mess, and the city is already facing absolute messes with the Department of Water and Power, with the school system. We saw Obamacare. I just think that it, and I understand, some of the things I don't know for sure. I understand it does not, won't be good for administrative citations, which of course we all want to see come in. And the most important thing is nothing can be erased from it, but they could be erased from Pet Point. And I find that to be a very important thing. So I don't know where you are in it, but I would love to see that it had some more review. The other thing that I've come down here before to talk about is adoptions. I think we need to start looking at responsible adoptions rather than just getting, animals out. I know that's important and we want to get them out of the shelters. I'm not saying that. But we are on the other end where we do medicals and we get all these calls. And a lot of times when you have these reduced fees, people are coming and getting the animals because they think, oh, isn't this wonderful? I can have an animal for $25 or I can have an animal for free. But what happens is that they take it home and it gets sick. And sometimes it just literally needs food. And we get these calls from people that don't have enough food and on with medicals. Some of them are extreme. We get people that have, want help with $15,000 to $20,000 worth of medical. Obviously that's one. But a lot of them are simply routine. They can't afford a dental. They can't afford flea medication. And I think we just have to start looking at the whole. I don't know how that's done, but I just think it should be responsible adoptions, not just adoptions. The other thing is I know we're going to talk about best friends later with transports and such, but I think in my mind, somewhere along the line, a contract should be coming up. They've been here 3-4 years, 2-3 years. I'm not sure what it is. But when the new contract comes up for the Northeast, it would be wonderful if the public was able to see that first, and we were able to see what it is that they've agreed to with the city. And if I don't get up to speak for the administrative citations, because I might not have to, I just want to thank Phyllis, because Phyllis has stuck into this for I don't know how many years, and we have Phyllis to thank. Thank you.
Thank you.
Phyllis Doherty.
And who's after Phyllis?
Danny Duss.
Good morning, Phyllis Doherty, Animal Issues Movement. I want to talk with you a little bit about the structure of the department, because each time I like to give you a little information you don't get otherwise. In about October last year, this department was split. The chain of command was split. This is a quasi-military law enforcement agency. And it was split. The chain of command was broken completely. So if we have an emergency now, you have no one in the field services that is totally in control. Always you had someone at the helm of each district that handled all of the issues in the district if you needed an answer. Now it's been split up to where you have 3 DFOs who have different sections. So one does clerical, one does field services, and the other one handles the shelters. So if someone comes in with a problem regarding an animal, and they can be then shuffled from each person. Well, it really wasn't us, it was really the paperwork. Maybe it wasn't us, maybe the officer went in wrong, maybe he didn't do it right, sorry, I can't answer that. Then you try to get them up to the next level, which is Jan, Mark, and Dato. Of course, they're not available. This is a very, very bad situation. If we have a bad emergency, we have no one person that can make the decisions. You need to have someone explain to you thoroughly what they've done. And then you have the medical, and from what I understand, Dr. Prupas isn't even attending the WOSTAT meetings anymore. So that's separate. You cannot run a law enforcement agency without a chain of command where people know exactly who's in charge, who they go to, and how things are going to get done. So I want you to be aware of that. It's confusing, I know, but it is confusing, and that's the problem. It shouldn't be. The whole time of animal control has run perfectly with the commanders at the top, whatever they were called at the time. I'm going to show you something. I'm actually going to scan this in and send it to you. This is the way an animal control report should be done. This is Lincoln, Nebraska, and the reason that it's so good, the many categories of service requested, the total field responses made by officers, the day of the week, anything that you want to know, how many cats impounded by month. This is done on chameleon. They do it daily. If you've ever worked for a law enforcement agency, for instance, say I work in traffic for Irvine. When the way you find out what's going on is that you use a pinpoint system to see where you're having a problem. This is also done on chameleon. All dispatches for the year, but it's kept up to date all the time. All the animal and fowl permits, breeders, extra animals, barking dog complaints. Here's where they came from. And you can go through every single category. Chain dogs, where were they cited? Dangerous dogs, where were they cited? So that at any moment you can look into your records and see exactly what's going on in the department. Petting and grooming shops, multi-cat permits. Whatever you want, it's right there, and the management and commissioners, anyone can look at it and tell what's going on. The reason this is so good is this general manager was deaf. Jim Waverka, one of the best managers ever existed, was totally deaf. So he relied on visuals, and he developed this wonderful program. So I'm gonna go ahead, since they don't do it exactly this way, don't publish it for so many people anymore. I'm gonna scan it to you, and I want to know why you're getting it. Okay.
Thank you. After Dan.
After Dan, we have Grace Land.
Hi, Daniel Gus from the Stan Foundation in Sherman Oaks, which is also where I live. I'm glad Commissioner Gross mentioned the hot weather, because yesterday, Councilmember Paul Krikorian sends out an email talking about the hot weather and animals, and who did he refer people to in his email? The Humane Society. Councilmember Paul Krikorian didn't refer the people of his email to LA Animal Services, and he said Humane Society, capital H, capital S. So as is with the case with so many things with the city, you guys need to educate and fix the problems within before you, simultaneously at least. I'll send you that email. I have a new article on citywatchla.com that I sent to you previously, and it talks about the flawed improvement of the elephant law. And in my article, I cited 3 laws that the city has that you have ceremoniously, that you don't enforce. About spay-neuter, which you don't enforce. About breeding, that you don't enforce. About millions of dollars in licensing that you don't enforce. So when you get to the administrative citations, God bless Kathy Reardon, who Phyllis and I have been sitting here for 10 years in this room talking about this when it was first proposed and in citations. It was unanimously approved by your predecessors in 2009. And so it just has the feeling of a well-intentioned tool that you won't have enforced, and I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to play you a few seconds of an audio clip with Brenda from 2011. That's Brenda talking about the city laws that discriminate against dog breeders. Later, a year later, Brenda and I were on KCRW, in which she denied making that statement in LA. As she said it was, a long time ago, she tried to distance herself from it. You have to really do some soul searching and decide, what are you guys here for? Is it to have ceremonial laws that you're not going to enforce? You should have a public discussion about where Brenda stands on breeding. She's the GM. She manages the department, you run the department. Here she is saying that the city law discriminates against breeders. You have to really start at home and decide, is the goal of the department to treat animals like a hot potato? Shove them here, shove them there, send them to best friends. Sue Matson will tell you about how many animals have been shoved out of state. She'll tell you. Commissioner Zaft and I had a rigorous discussion in the past week where he's finally acknowledged that more than 5,000 animals were sent to best friends and counted as adoptions. All they did was go from one cage to another cage. You got to decide, what is this purpose of this department? Thank you.
Graceland, and after Graceland, we have Philip Garabegian.
I'm here to talk about.
Grace, can you identify yourself and where you live?
Okay, I live in Pasadena, California, and I rescue rabbits. I'm here as a private citizen representing myself. On April 28th, 2014, Brenda issued a public statement saying that the case involving 127 rabbit breeders was closed. But then on April 28th, she also made a public statement saying some rabbits had been placed with a rescue during the past week, and the remaining 40 bunnies were in clean cages. So, which one is it? Is the case still open or is it closed? Because if it's closed, where are the remaining bunnies? She won't tell me what rescue they went to. She just said they went to rescue. So I don't understand why she won't tell the public where the rabbits are. 127 rabbits were present at the start of the investigation. Bunny World Foundation and rescue partners took 57 rabbits. LA Animal Services took 5, euthanized 1, and the 4 remaining were taken by Bunny World Foundation. 40 now remain per Brenda. Where are the 25 unaccounted rabbits? Barnette has made it clear that LA Animal Services took none, and although issuing a public report that some went to rescues, though those rescue names remain to be unknown. So I did have personal email exchanges with Brenda, and she told me that she didn't know where they went. So how can she know, how can she make a public statement about those rabbits were placed in a rescue if she doesn't know where they went? LA Animal Services Red Alert Rabbit Protocol is misleading. On May 6, 2014, 17 rabbits were listed on Red Alert. Red Alert constitutes a 48-hour period prior to euthanasia. Upon questioning from the public, Barnette stated that these rabbits will be the first euthanized should they run out of space, if more rabbits come into the shelter. Rabbits should have equal red list protocols as dogs and cats. Listing 17 rabbits as a warning when the shelters have ample open rabbit cages is misleading. I had exchanged correspondence with Ross Poole, he's a custodian of public records, and Brenda. Brenda didn't know how many empty cages there were, yet she claims there was no space. There are only 7 rabbits at East Valley Shelter today. The capacity is 25. Why are 17 rabbits red listed? That doesn't make any sense to me. And also, I'd like to ask that you guys put this animal hoarding case on the agenda. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you.
After Philip, we have Sue Matson.
And before Philip begins, John, how many remaining cards are there?
We have, after Sue, we have none.
Okay.
Hi. My name is Philip Garabegian. I'm an attorney and I live in Los Feliz. I wasn't born and raised in Los Feliz. I was actually born and raised in Iran, where we lived below what would be considered poverty lines here. And that'll be relevant in a minute why I'm telling you that. I already sent each of you, I believe, a letter. To the extent you didn't receive it, I have copies here that I'll leave and you can take with you. I think what I would like to highlight is already covered in the letter, and my suggestions are already covered there. What I want to share is just a personal experience that isn't unique. About a month ago, and this is in an email that I will also leave here, about a month ago, I was on Hart and Laurel Canyon Streets visiting a foster, and I just made a wrong turn, and I ended up spending an hour on that street. And the reason why was literally either every or every other house had what I would consider a problem that the Department of Animal Services should have been involved with and addressed if they were kind of really taking to heart this either it's the ACE program or something along the lines of actually community outreach. There were poodles out in the middle of the road that I walked back to their house. I knocked on the door. I informed the resident there about, spay neuter, and that there were multiple clinics available that would offer the service for free, that they didn't have to qualify with any financial, requirements. There were many dogs on that street that were intact. There were pit bulls that were just, transferring their aggression onto one each other, fighting and perpetrating the bad stereotype that those poor dogs have. Bottom line is, I don't think anyone wants a private citizen like myself to take on this responsibility of going around the neighborhoods and informing the general public of the services that national groups are making available for free as far as spay neuter, me making them informed about the mandatory spay neuter ordinances. I think these are something that the department needs to have a real accountability with respect to in terms of reducing the intake numbers at the shelters. The excuse that has been given to me before with the link to an article is that it's a poverty issue. Like I said in the beginning of my talk, where I grew up, we lived below poverty lines, and if someone came to my door and informed me and educated me about what's available in terms of a service, my family would have definitely taken advantage of that. Thank you for your time, and I'll leave these here for you to review.
Thank you so much. You can give those to John. Pass those one.
Sue?
Good morning, Dr. Sue Matson, citizen, taxpayer, volunteer, and customer. Get that right. I won't even take 3 minutes. This week, I emailed to all of the commissioners and to the staff who are typically present at these meetings a report called the LA No Kill Data Project. This is essentially a final report with details about the data audit and an introduction to the analysis. Now, this is a citizen pro bono volunteer project, and it's been about a year since I started looking into this, and so there's kind of got to be a point where the work comes to an end, and this is close to the end, but the good news is that in this report, fixing some of the data keeping issues is pretty straightforward, and they do need to be fixed to get animals in the right buckets for statistics. In a future agenda, there are more, serious or more important things that the data tell us about, I think, about what it means to be where we want to be with this city, meaning defining what we're taking to mean no kill. So that will be in a future agenda item. I think I've said this before, I'm not a social media person and I have very few email addresses. The results are going to be posted in a publicly accessible Dropbox. I will email to some of the people I know out here who I have email addresses, but it's set up to be an electronic document. Here are the outline for anybody who's interested. Talks about the data that was requested, how the data were prepared, and this is important. Where do people get the numbers that they're talking about? And the intention was to make this clear. I talk about the data set itself, the issues that I had, and some of my solutions for a future data pool. But then, to the point, data audit findings and recommendations, and data analysis methods that will talk about how the data are presented in the Dropbox folder, access to the Dropbox folder, and administrative policy recommendations. So it's not a light bedtime reading, but I think I made the point that if citizens can put in hundreds of hours to devote themselves, like most of these people out here have, that take that hour to read this document and treat it with all due consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that it?
Any other public comments? That's it.
Okay. Just really quickly, we can't respond substantively, but I just want to let people know we are going to have an upcoming meeting where we're going to talk quite a bit, I think, about rabbits. And then also on what Sue just talked about the data project, and also just more generally about the reporting that we get, that also will be on a meeting fairly soon. So I just wanted to let people know that those are issues that the commission is going to be reviewing, and there'll be a chance for the public to weigh in. And I've generally thought that in order to capture what Sue has done and move the ball forward, it might make sense to have a commissioner or two work with Sue on the next step. And looking around me, and Roger's not here, but maybe he'll be listening. So just something to kind of think about. Also more generally about possible opportunities for more commissioner involvement. I think in our protocols every July we select a new appeals commissioner. So if any of you are looking for some opportunity pie to eat, just keep those things in mind. Okay. Okay. So moving on, then we're going to go review and approve the minutes.
Yes, item number 2 is commission business. The first item on commission business is approval of the minutes for the meeting of April 8, 2014. Action is required.
And those minutes were the ones from, I think, was that? Well, those were ones where the audio failed,
yes,
and we all kind of had to review our notes, and Ross did a great job taking a first cut, and then some of us, Jennifer, I know, and others weighed in, and I looked over the new draft. I didn't have any additional comments. Does anybody else?
Looks good.
Okay. I would move that we approve the minutes from the April 8th meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
The motion carries by a vote of 4-0. Second item for approval is approval of the minutes for the meeting of April 22nd, 2014. There is action required on this one. Commissioner Yanez had some comments relative to those minutes, and I do have them, and I will include them in the minutes. I didn't get a chance to do that before today's meeting, but I will do that.
Were they? Did you want to? Were they substantive?
Yeah, it
or?
was just the, I think it was on page 6 and page 7 of the April 22nd meeting. It was just my comments that day, as well as the notes that were written up on the licensing program. I needed to know the zip codes. I was told in the meeting that it would be in the report, but some things were missing from the report, so I just notified John to it, and he said he would make the changes.
I think when they were referring to a commissioner, it was your
Yeah,
first initial.
yeah, it was me.
Is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes of April 22nd with those changes?
Yeah, I'll make the motion to approve the minutes with the changes.
With the changes?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The motion carries 4-0. The third item on the agenda is the oral report of the general manager. There are public comments on this. Did you want to take those now?
There are public comments on Brenda's report.
That's correct.
She hasn't given me the report yet.
Public.
People are, for all you guys who are using telepathy or,
It's intended for after.
Right, no, I know. I'm impressed that you knew to put a placeholder.
How to watch what you're thinking.
Okay, so go on to the general manager's report.
Okay, so today at 1 o'clock, the Budget and Finance Committee will resume their hearings on the 2014-15 budget. There are 2 items for the department that still need to be addressed or will be addressed today. One is our request for additional food and medical funding to the total of $240,000. That is so we have enough food to feed all the animals and so that we have the medical supplies we need to continue to increase the in-house spay neuters. There's also another item which is restoring one deleted clerk typist authority, and that's $53,000. And that's very important because sometimes we have so few staff that we are jostling from shelter to shelter to even be able to get a shelter open. So loss of that position is critical. The bull book signing event was Saturday morning. The mayor was pleased to sign the legislation. Councilmember Koretz, former mayoral aide Jim Bickert, Sheree Shankar, Elizabeth Dole, and others were in attendance. The ordinance takes place January 2017. The May 6th ribbon cutting for the new ASPCA Spay Neuter clinic at the South LA Chesterfield Square Shelter was a big success. They had started doing spay neuters, but this was the official grand opening. Thank you for the commissioners who attended. It was nice to see you all down there. In addition, Matt, the president of the SPCA, in addition to Matt, the new president of the ASPCA, well, I guess he's almost a year there now, isn't he? No, he's not too new. We had Councilmember Parks, Deputy Mayor Don Liu, and a representative from Assemblymember Sebastian Ridley Thomas's office. Channel 7 was there and ran a brief spot on the local news that night, and I think you saw all of the clippings. Thank you for sending me the ones I missed. You had about 3 times as many as I have. So we were very well covered for that event, and we're very excited for the services that are going to be offered in South LA. And their goal is to do 4,000 spay neuters in the first year, 6,000 in the second year, and to expand that to include some services, veterinary care for low-income people, to help them keep their companion animals. And they're also working closely with the shelter intervention program. So we're excited. Regarding the rabbit case that we've all been following, I'm sorry that Ms. Lynn left. We had another unscheduled inspection, I think it was Monday, and when the officer arrived, the rabbit owner was in the backyard caring for the rabbits. The officer observed and counted 42 rabbits housed in separate cages with fresh food and water. The cages were clean. No rabbit was observed to be sick or injured. And the owner is still planning to find new homes for the rabbits as he will be moving. Now, at the point that we said that the case was closed was because the owner was working with us, was cleaning up the situation, had cleaned up the situation. We no longer felt that it was a situation that in order for the health and well-being of the rabbits that we had to go in and take them. So we continue to work with him. We continue to have unannounced inspections. Where he placed the rabbits between that took him down to 42, I don't know. We had not seized them. He placed them. So we do not know where he placed them. And there would be no reason that he would have to necessarily tell us that. The zoo vet RFQ went out that you directed us to release for the qualifications regarding wild and exotic animal veterinarians. It was released on April the 9th. Responses were due on the 23rd. Notifications were sent to the AVMA, American Veterinary Medical Association, California Veterinary Medical Association of Zoo Veterinarians, Humane Society, Veterinary Medical Association, Association of Zoos and Aquariums was not responsive to our phone calls. The RFQ was posted in the Daily Journal, our website, the city's procurement clearinghouse, Los Angeles Business Assistance Virtual Network. We received no responses. Therefore, we will have to release the bid to provide these vet services to the 4 qualified vets who are on our list from last year. The bid document will be released this week.
I'm sorry, can you clarify? We didn't receive any responses at all?
No, we have the responses that we had on file from last year. Does that 4 include the one who passed away?
No, it doesn't.
Okay, so there were 5 on file, 1 has passed away. And so we have 4 that we'll go back and ask them to bid for bids.
And just timing-wise, when does the circus come to town?
typically?
They have not notified us yet that they want a permit this year unless it's happened in the last 24 hours, but it's usually in July.
Yes, the website states July 7th or so, first week of July.
They're not applied for their permit. But they have been notified that their documents need to be in well in advance. So if they do want to apply for a permit, they've been put on notice that they need to start the ball rolling. The cooling, some of these are just questions that commissioners have asked, so I'm just going to let you know where we are on some things. We talked about a cooling off period for owner surrenders, and the board requested a report on this issue. Sort of should there be a cooling off period after an owner surrenders an animal and before they can adopt again? There was a concern that some people turn them in and adopt again the same day. So at this point, I've collected data from the neighboring localities and posted the question on the Society of Animal Welfare Administrators listserv and have gotten input from the ASPCA. We have not had time to write a board report, but that will be forthcoming. It will be scheduled. The responses have ranged from saying they'll never get another animal from us again to, no, they're going to get an animal somewhere anyway. So it'll be a good discussion for you guys because I didn't get a clear answer from the people I've told. But that will come back as a board report. The transport recommendations from former commissioners Jinsfold and Lisa McCurdy were incorporated into the New Hope procedures. And I think we passed these out to you at one of the meetings. If not, John made some more copies for today, but they are now in the New Hope policies. The New Hope, one of the changes in the New Hope policy and procedures was to have the animals under 35 pounds remain in the shelter over the weekend so the public would have an opportunity to adopt from us rather than from the rescues. It's really too early to say anything about a trend because this is just starting. It does appear that our adoptions are up, over same time last year, but it's a little hard to say. I can tell you that people from the mayor's office and some of the city council members have been glad to see us make this change. When we report on Wolfstat, we report life save rate. We show how many adoptions were made by the department, and then everything that goes to Best Friends, New Hope, or as returned to owner or whatever is listed as a live release. It's clear on the reports what is an adoption from the department. And although I haven't honestly looked at it, but Dara has put the actual Wolfstat report up on the website now.
I think some of the issue is the reports that have been on the website, which aren't the Wolfstat reports, lump all of the Best Friend transfers in under adoption. So you don't even see Best Friends. Right. You just see New Hope polls, and then you see adoptions.
On your monthly report, it's not like that.
Right, but I think
and that's where
I think what we're hearing from the public is when they look at the website and they look at the statistics, it looks you can't tell which animals are the Best Friends.
So now you can see the Wolfstat reports, which give you that.
Yeah, I think we want to have maybe when we talk about data and reporting discussion about what to do with the reports that are on the website.
Yes, those reports are very old, I think. And they're kind of difficult. You have to combine them yourself with an Excel spreadsheet to really say anything. Okay, the SNP LA vaccination clinic agreement is completed. They agreed to the recommendations made by the commission, including having paid Spanish-speaking outreach coordinator and using the county's public health maps to target service areas. So thank you for those suggestions. The board report was transmitted to the mayor's office. They have forwarded this proposed agreement to the CAO's office for a report. And once he transfers that back to the Personnel and Animal Welfare Committee, the PAW Committee, there will be a final action on that.
Does that come back to us at all?
It won't come back
No.
to you. Okay. No. But it went with your suggestions. And you can, of course, go to the PAW Committee and give testimony.
The other thing is I actually met with SNP LA, about a month and a half, 2 months ago, and they agreed to all the recommendations. And so the only issues would have been if they had not, in particular areas, we would have brought that back. But since they conceded on all the major points, we went forward and submitted that to the mayor's office.
Feline outings at the Harbor Shelter, it's barely underway. They're still getting some of the cages they need set up. We did work with them and came up with a data collection agreement so that they can track their data for how much progress they're having. And we'll start getting reports back from them when they have some results. Owner surrender fees, we asked for the $25 owner surrender fee. As a GM, I'm not allowed to waive this. Waiving or changing the fee would require city council approval. That's an asset. Some New Hope partners allege that owners are throwing dogs out on the streets. We don't really have proof of this. We believe that staff is categorizing some of the pets as strays rather than owner surrenders, and that way they waive the fees, because we're really only collecting about 69% or less of the owner surrender fees if you counted everything. So I don't know where we want to go with that, but this is just information back. Breeding permits discussion. This seems to be confusing to everyone. $20 altered animal, $100 breeder's license if you have if you meet one of the exemptions. If you don't meet one of the exemptions, you can buy your way out with the breeder's permit. This is not what we sent forward. It's not what the commission sent forward. It's not what the Paul committee sent forward. We sent forward much stricter guidelines, and when it came back from the city attorney's office, it came back with those considerations. I believe that there is an interest in revisiting this. That this is not, the department does not take responsibility for this loose law. And neither should the commission or the Paul committee. The Paul committee report back on spay and neuter programs. John is finalizing this week. You've asked about it. Paul committee has been canceled and rescheduled due to budget things. We believe it's going to be on the May 20th Paul committee meeting, the report back on spay neuter. If you want to be there for it, we will provide copies to you and give any kind of report you would like to have as well. The release of unsterilized animals, if the adopter or redeemer claims that they live outside the city, we might want to have Jan come in and talk about how she counsels and trains the clerks. If they prove that they have an ID or a driver's license or an ID that says they live outside the city, we have not felt that we had jurisdiction over them. I don't know if we can recommend an ordinance that says that any dog visiting the city that's impounded must be spayed or neutered. I don't know. I mean, if they're over 30 days, they're not visiting. They're here. Okay? I mean, I know that piece of the law. But I don't know. So that's something we could look into. But that's sort of where we get stuck. There have been a couple of cases that I can think of within the last year.
Yeah, and if Jan does come back, she should provide the board with the context of the problem. We don't know if this is happening every day or if it's happening, once a month. But I think that would be important if we want to make any changes, just to know what the scope of this particular problem is.
Right. We have not prepared the report on the biodegradable dog waste bag. That's still something that's an agenda item that's upcoming in the future. Applications for New Hope coordinators closed and 3 positions were chosen. There's not a pay differential. There's just a little bit of difference that they do in their job because they want to. Veronica Perry will be at East Valley. Tiffany Hamilton will be at North Central, and Samantha Westbrook at South LA, Chesterfield Square. So those will be the coordinators, and they will help with the smaller shelters too that are closest to them, in addition to the large shelter that they're working out of. The No-Kill Super Adoption Weekend was a success. For us, that whole weekend, including at the Super Adoption and in our shelters, we had 218 adoptions. 125 were from the tar pits, the Best Friends event. And at the end of the day, Best Friends took 39 animals, so we had 164 total from that event, which is a nice day. We have a number of physical things going on. King Wire is working on the covers at the harbor. I think they're almost finished. They're working on a punch list on that. The Bureau of Engineering is drilling soil samples at North. We ran into some problems there for the new construction. So they took samples down to 90 feet in front of the public parking lot, trying to determine, that was a fill area, trying to determine what type of underground waste is there, if any, because that could impact construction there. The North shelter washer and dryer does not work consistently. They're small dryers, small washers and dryers. They're like the biggest home version you can get, but we can't put anything bigger in there because we don't have the electricity or the space. And that'll all change out with the new construction. We have new dryers on the way, but we do have a challenge there. So one of the things that we're going to do is use a little bit of money out of the Animal Welfare Trust Fund if we need to do laundry in between. I can authorize only up to $5,000. If it's going to be more than that, I'll have to come back to you. But just in order to keep the bedding clean and sanitary there, we've checked into some of the vendors that could provide that kind of service for us. The Pets 90210 filmed yesterday at North Central. KNBC aired a wildlife ride-along. I hope you all saw it. They went out and rode along with our wildlife team a couple of nights, maybe 3 or 4 nights, and some really good clips and footage. We posted them all on Facebook, on our Facebook, so if you didn't see them, take a look. And making a case for protecting all critters. We have impounded 24 roosters and 1 horse in North Hills on May the 6th. The horse just happened to be there and he was injured and no one claimed him, so we took him in because he was injured. And I think probably no one claimed him because he was injured. But anyway, so you probably saw the press release on that. We have been working very hard with emergency preparedness citywide. We have a published list of the chain of command, and we will be having the department present on that very soon. Also, Dr. Debus does attend the WFSTAT meetings. I don't know where you get your information sometimes, but he goes every time. And people don't understand the red list. We don't always know how many. Sometimes you go to the shelters and you'll see the line back down the street, and you'll see people waiting in line to leave animals at one of the shelters. So the red list for every animal is the same. That means that we give that animal at least 48 hours before they are on the list that they could be humanely euthanized if we run out of space. We feel no obligation to kill them after 48 hours if we still have space in the shelter. But it is our list that lets the rescues know, please help these first. These will be the first ones that we euthanize if we run out of time. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, that was how I understood the red list work. It's kind of a heads up to rescue organizations, and also regarding the fact that one of the commenters left. I just encourage people, when you come up to speak for public comments, one of the reasons we moved the general manager's report earlier in these meetings is so that people can have a chance to get some of the benefit of the information that the general manager is presenting. And it's a little odd or bewildering when people make comments and then they leave. Commissioner.
So, question maybe for next report. You raised the issue with the website, and I know the challenges there, but maybe you could report on where we are with that, whether any money was in the budget, and also I think because there's so much public concern about the website that before we move forward with it, we get public input on things that the public would like to see on that. I think that would help us in developing and updating that website, because I think we really need to move on that.
Right, we certainly can take content suggestions. It's pretty impossible to develop a website by committee.
Right.
But we will definitely report on that, and I think we'll have some good news with a new staff person starting by then.
Great. And just one other thing I noted, you mentioned we impounded 24 roosters, and I saw the press release, but do you want to say anything more about?
There were 10 people arrested, which was huge. So we did it in conjunction with LAPD. They went in, they arrested the people, we took the roosters and the horse. And that's the way we divided up. In a situation like that, the roosters are usually, many of them are injured already.
In the situation we're talking about here, there was cockfighting.
There was definitely cockfighting. They had their razor blades tied on their, I mean, it was pretty bad. People went and saw it. So those roosters are humanely euthanized. Now, when they do have other chickens around and or young ones, we don't automatically do that. We've started placing the hens.
Were any roosters, did any roosters survive?
Well, we can mainly euthanize them if they do. These are fighting cocks.
So all of them were,
yes.
were put down. And then the 10 who are being held are going to be prosecuted by the city attorney or the DA's.
Right.
Just one other clarification. You had mentioned that there are long lines at the clinic. Is that certain times of the month? Are they regular, or it's just whenever?
And it's like they've suddenly discovered South LA.
So it's mainly in South LA?
Well, the lines have gotten longer down there. We have space at some of the shelters, so they're transferring from shelter to shelter. I think there is a seasonal aspect to it, particularly with puppies and kittens, and we're starting to move into the puppies and kittens now with a vengeance. You know, usually after the first of the year, January, February, it's a little bit of a lull at the shelters. But sometimes you just go there and there's a line of people just waiting to surrender.
Anything else? Okay, so we have public
Public
comments.
comments. We have Phyllis Doherty up first and Sue Taylor on deck.
Okay. For this session, we do 2 minutes each.
Phyllis Doherty. Just so you know, I want you to know that with game animals, game fowl, the hens are just as precious as the males to the breeders and the fighters. The females provide the gameness, the intent to fight, and that's how that's determined. The males determine basically the stamina and the strength and the fighting style of the bird. So you want to not just adopt out the females because the breeders love this. I mean, they've got plenty of roosters. It's getting a really good game female. It's a lot harder to get. So I just want to comment on the having to beg for food and medical supplies and one clerk. This department, we're struggling with 39 officers or so out in the field to cover this entire area, 469 square miles and 4 million people. The county covers approximately the same number of people, larger areas spread out, but still the districts are divided. We have 6 shelters. And they have 154 officers out there, and it's no problem to get the budget for that because it is emphasized that these are public safety officers. They're out there to protect the public and the animals, contrary to humane officers, which only protect animals. The animal control officers has a dual responsibility, protect animals from people and people from animals. And the city council is willing to give money when they think it's needed. The problem is, we're telling them there's no problem. Best Friends is adopting them all out. We've got it all taken care of. These interceptor programs, if we're not following up on them, I mean, those animals are going to be dumped in the street. There's an increased hatred for this department out in the community. You need to know that because when people go into the shelter now, when you've got the interceptors, they're told, you don't want to leave it here, they kill it. Rather than that everybody's working together on this. So they won't bring them back. They'll dump them somewhere else. If they take them to a county shelter, they'll dump them in the street. So just, if we want more, if we want better, more money given to us, we need to show the need for it. And if any city has a need for it, for officers and for the street work, it's us.
Thank you.
Sue. After Sue, we have Dan Gunz.
Sue Taylor, Actors and Others. One of the, I guess, benefits of being old is remembering a lot of stuff. So I just thought I would bring you some history to all of that. First of all, with the $20, $100 for licenses, that actually was determined by the mayor's office and the city attorney, that that's how that ordinance had to go through. Because I worked with Dove and Phyllis, and we worked on all that. I didn't like that in there. But that's how come it went in. It's because the mayor's office and the city attorney decided that was the only way it was going to get in. As to coming back after they've dropped off an animal, I've been saying for at least 15 years with others that it really needs to be something. It doesn't, even if it's the next day, don't let them go back and get another puppy that time, make them come back the next day. Because if they have to come back, they may come back, but there's a good chance they won't come back because they're there. It's the convenience thing. Also, with regard to the $25 that you charge for people, we see some of the results of that, again, going back to our medicals where people can't even afford flea medicine or their medicals. They can't afford to have their animal fixed, so they decide they're going to euthanize it because the animal's suffering. But they can't afford the euthanasia because that's expensive. So they decide to take it to the shelter. Well, the shelter wants $25. They're not going to do that because it's too much money. And then, in the past previous management has done everything they could to not encourage people to bring their animals in. There were big signs, don't bring your animals or what, and we went through a period of time because we had the calls at our office that when the people were bringing the animals in, they were being charged with cruelty. They say, if you leave this animal here, we're going to have to charge you with cruelty. Because look at this animal. You know, there's only one reason that this animal is like it. It's because you were cruel to it. So now they take the animal away again. So I don't know where these animals were going, but they're ending up on the street. They're ending up somewhere just simply dying and suffering. And I'm going back again to responsible care for the animals.
Daniel, Gus, you can't have apples to oranges comparisons for your statistics. The turn-in fee does impact statistics, and you can't look at them and say pre-turn-in fee, post-turn-in fee, it's the same thing. There's a problem with that. Regarding the circus, why don't you cut off Ringling Brothers at the pass? Go to the mayor's office and have them invite one of the circuses that don't have animals at all. Cut them off at the pass. Invite somebody who doesn't, and there's, you know how many international circuses there are that don't have any animals? The hell with Ringling Brothers, let the market forces deal with them. Go to the mayor's office, let's get on the same boat, let's get on the same team for this, for God's sakes. Cut them off at the pass. The West Valley shelter has had, I think, several dozen evidence animals there for about a year. Can we find out why that's not on GMs? Brenda can fill you in on that because she's nodding her head. Let's find out why those animals are there for so long, and isn't there a better solution? Maybe using the media, some way to get these evidence animals out of West Valley and possibly other shelters. When you say that, Commissioner Zaft hit on it, when you say adoptions are up, you can't say adoptions are up and not completely do a reset on past claims that we've had about adoptions. If you say adoptions are up, you have to unwind the claims, whether it's intentional, as I believe, or unintentional, as Commissioner Zaft believes. You have to explain to the public and unwind what past claims about adoptions were, and how about formally defining what's an adoption. To me, does the animal have a chance of sleeping in somebody's bed that night? Are they going to pick up popcorn on movie night? That's what an adoption is, not one cage for another. Please consider formally defining an adoption. Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, Commissioner, that brings us to discussion items. The first discussion item is the Administrative Citation Enforcement, or ACE program, including an overview of fines and penalties.
Actually, one question about that. We were talking about how to structure this. Who was going to present the overview of the fines and penalties? Was that going to be? I wasn't sure if that was going to be John or John Chavez or.
Well, I think
that's going to be
that.
Would that be part of Mark and John Foreman's discussion? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So maybe we could first start out. Actually, maybe we could first. The way I was thinking of this, I think part of the materials we saw what was passed nearly a year ago. And I wanted to get an update on where the development of the department's administrative citation enforcement program is. And so maybe we could have David Michelson come up first and provide an update. I know David has been involved in moving the ball forward. Just as a reminder, so about a year ago, there was the city council adopted an ordinance, I guess, to start for an ACE program, and as part of that, Animal Services is going to be part of the pilot program. And David, come and take the center seat. And so is LAPD. And I know David and I believe also John Torrell and Mark Salazar have all been working in meetings about how to make that happen. And so with that introduction, David, if you want to give us an update on how that's gone and where we're at, and also kind of where it's going and how quickly our officers in Animal Services will be able to implement the ACE program. Appreciate it. So welcome.
Thank you very much. My name is David Michelson. I'm the Chief Assistant City Attorney for the City of Los Angeles. Pleasure to be here with you today. ACE, Administrative Citation Enforcement Program, has been in the works for a long time. A lot of folks have been very patient and waiting for the rollout and implementation of the program. The good news is we're now on the precipice of finally having that happen. This particular department has been at the forefront of expressing a desire to take part in ACE and have ACE be effective and be an important tool for the department and for the city. Just by way of quick background, currently under existing city law, if, to take this department as an example, if you are cited by an enforcement officer for not having an animal on a leash, for instance, you're given a citation. And as with a citation that you would receive if you were speeding in your car down Wilshire Boulevard, it actually goes through the state court system, which is kind of a cumbersome system and does not allow the monies that come in associated with the penalties and fines to be received really by the city. So a number of years ago, this department, some other policymakers at the city, and the city attorney's office decided to pursue an ACE program which would shift how these citations are handled legally. No longer they would go through the state court system, but they would actually be processed internally by the city. A few other cities in California now have ACE programs up and running, and they appear to be working relatively well. Last year in June, I believe, City Council adopted a lengthy ordinance which provided the legislative underpinnings for the ACE program, but it did not address or speak to how the program could be launched and sort of the nuts and bolts for how it could actually happen. So last summer, City Council said, let's move it forward through a pilot program with two departments, Department of Animal Services and the Los Angeles Police Department. And City Council also said, City Attorney, please convene a working group of involved city departments to really tackle the issues as to how the city can get an ACE program up and running, because superficially it sounds like that might be a fairly easy thing to do, but it is just the opposite. That's an easy thing to do, unfortunately. But again, as I started off my comments, we're on the precipice of actually having, I think, the program roll forward, and I'll put a little more flesh on the bones here in a minute. During the past 9 months or so, there have been a series of working group meetings convened mostly under the auspices of the City Attorney's Office, including personnel, staff involvement from Animal Services Department, LAPD, Chief Administrative Officer, Chief Legislative Analysts, the Controller's Office, Office of Finance, and ITA, Information Technology. And usually playing an active role was Councilmember Paul Koretz's office. He's been very instrumental and involved in trying to keep this thing moving forward. So I know we all appreciated his office's assistance. Some subgroups were also formed. The primary two areas that were focused on, which would apply to the Animal Services Department and LAPD and moving forward, and the other departments which take part in ACE down the line, concerned what the review process would be, what the appellate process would be. So if you were issued one of these citations, what would be your opportunity to challenge that citation? The City Attorney's Office has developed a fairly robust protocol for how hearing officers will be selected, what their experience will be, what their duties and responsibilities will be, and what the actual process looks like. So that now is in place. And in addition, The second area that was really difficult to get our arms around was how to process all these citations. With these two departments, there is expected a fair degree of citations. If you look at historically how many citations LAPD issues, Animal Services Department issues for the types of violations of the municipal code that will be rolled into this program, we're talking about thousands of citations a year, just based on past volume. And the city, frankly, is not set up to process these citations. And what it would take to get the city to be set up to process citations is one of the main things that was focused on, the types of information technology, database, software systems that would need to be integrated, both existing systems and new systems, the various departments who would have to touch these citations for processing, multiple departments. And one of the things that we encountered with one or more of the other municipalities who successfully handled ACE around the state of California is using a vendor to assist in processing. Really, that is now the more common way, I think, for municipalities who have ACE programs successfully to process their citations. So they've hired a vendor, and their job is to receive the citations once they're written by the officers in the field, process those citations, get them into the database, get them mailed out to the individuals who receive the citations, and then sort of hand it off to the city attorney's office for the appeals review process for those folks who want to challenge. So there are really two options that the working group has focused on. One is do everything in-house, and the time and money and resources needed to get that up and running. And the alternative would be to contract with a vendor who's sort of tried and true, who's doing this type of processing for other agencies successfully, or maybe a hybrid for the two. So that issue now has been, I think, addressed successfully. What we've been doing the last, I guess, month or so is preparing a very comprehensive, extensive report that will go to City Council, probably being transmitted in the next couple of weeks, that will lay all of this out, provide the final sort of decision points with necessary information for Council to really fully embrace what these final steps are, and then we'll be able to roll it forward. I've committed to provide your general manager the draft of this report, hopefully even by the end of the week. It'll be a working draft, and also for LAPD. And then we'll be able to transmit it on to City Council. And of course, your board will have a copy of it, as will the public. So that's kind of where we are. Again, the bad news is it's taken a lot of time to get here, and I appreciate that. The good news is we are now sort of on the precipice of having this move forward.
David, thank you for coming this morning, and I'm sorry we had to make you wait.
Not a problem. It's
an agenda. When we spoke the other day, I was in the mayor's office, and we looped you in, or no, I was in Paul Kretz's office, and we were talking about being able to have, one of the concerns for our department was, would we have a different form, since we work on towards compliance as a little different headset, and you said you thought we could,
yes,
and that we would have a different fee structure, because our fees have been set by the commission over time, and I think they're a little bit probably lower than some of the LAPD ones to start with, but then they work their way up, and you seem to think that was possible.
Yes, the Department of Animal Services is certainly welcome to have its own citation form, different than what LAPD will be using. And I know that the department's been working on a form that works for this department. In terms of the amount of the fines and penalties, I believe ACE is set up to have the fines, first violation is $100, and I believe it goes to $250, then $500, and $1,000. And the goal here is to get compliance. For folks who are receiving repeat violations for the same municipal code section, to have them sort of pay attention and no longer to commit these violations. There is, I believe, with some of the code sections in Muni Code relating to this department, Department of Animal Services, some inconsistency, and so that's being addressed as well, working with my colleague, Caldwell. So that, in terms of the fine structure, that's being addressed as well.
So, and we're going to roll this out in 3 months. I believe that's what you're telling me.
Yeah, I think. Well, some of it depends. You know, you laugh.
I put you on the spot.
No, honestly,
I'm going to pull up my calendar.
Honestly, that's from the time the council acts on this, the goal, frankly, is to be able to meet that time frame. And I think that is achievable in particular, well, it's only achievable if we're going to work with a vendor who has done this type of processing, these citations for other municipalities.
So it's the city council who will ultimately determine which one of the three scenarios, because you said we either hire an outside agency to deal with the citations, or that it's done in-house, or it's a hybrid. Who determines that? It's going to be city
Ultimately,
council?
it was city council's input and direction on that.
What's your recommendation? I mean, that we hire? What is it looking like?
Well, I think our office believes there's some real efficiencies to working with an outside vendor for two reasons. One, it'll get the city up and running more quickly. And two, we'll be working with a vendor, assuming this is the direction that the city family heads, who has done this before for other agencies. So we'll hit the ground maybe running a little more successfully. It doesn't mean that forever the city will work with one or more of these vendors. Potentially the city could bring it in-house itself after a period of time. But there's pros and cons for each. So I don't necessarily have a recommendation, but there are pros and cons of things, both of which we need to address.
So if it was a vendor, you would have to issue a RFP?
More than likely, yes. There are other government agencies in California who are working with vendors as the ability maybe to piggyback on top of those existing contracts, or to do our own competitive selection.
So how would that impact the timeline if you had to issue an RFP?
Well, the RFP could be prepared relatively quickly and circulated in a reasonable period of time and reviewed. So, I mean, that sort of factored in, that will take up the bulk of what could be 3 months or potentially a little more. The alternative, as I mentioned, is possibly piggybacking on an existing contract with another governmental entity, which city law allows for. So we'll have to look at those. If indeed the direction from the policymakers is to head down the path of working with a vendor, we'll try to find the most effective way to get that done, at least for the first period of time.
Did you have any questions? Thank you for coming and giving this report. Actually, this has been a quiet meeting. We often, at every meeting, hear a lot about the need for enforcement. And you mentioned how this, by going to an ACE program, we're keeping the process within the city and the money within the city, which is one factor. The other factor is, as I understand it, and this is different than LAPD, and I think this is where we're different, our officers, for them to take this, they're dealing with situations frequently where for them to take the next step and basically threaten a court action, it triggers a lot of issues. It's kind of a higher threshold. When they do that, sometimes the investigation gets taken out of their hands. They no longer have the ability to do follow-up. And the types of violations that they're dealing with, I think this program is very, very well suited to giving them a lot greater ability to enforce, to be flexible, to get compliance, to follow up. But once they, as it stands now without the ACE program, once they try to pursue a violation, now I'm not talking about the most serious violations, but a lot of the violations that they're dealing with, or alleged violations, I should say, for my colleagues at my firm who are white collar defense lawyers. This program allows them to write a citation, follow up to see if compliance has happened, and not worry about all the things you have to worry about if you're going to be going into court.
Correct.
So I'm really excited about this. I think getting this program in place will allow our officers and our department to take a strong step forward with respect to enforcement. And so I hope the timeline you sketched out is one that we're going to see. It struck me that when I heard that the pilot test involved animal services and LAPD, it was like roping together the mouse and the elephant, because I think what we need it for is really targeted focus. We only have a few code sections. LAPD, their responsibility is, their scope of their responsibility is so huge, and they already have enforcement mechanisms that they rely on. So I'm glad to see that we're making progress now, because I was worried that to move forward together was going to be a real challenge. But if there are no other comments, maybe what we could do is have Mark Salazar and John Forlin come up, and David, we'd ask Ken to stick around because we have follow-up questions.
I'll move back to that chair.
Okay, great. Very, very generous. Welcome.
Good afternoon, President Zaft, members of the Commission. It's a pleasure to be here. Mark Salazar, Director of Field Operations.
John Forland in the Administration Division. And I would just point out, I think it's been 21 months now and counting, that we first realized we were ready to go with our own ACE program. And we started out, as was mentioned earlier, we came to the Commission here and got approval to go forward about a year ago when we were speaking with Paul. Commission, they asked us to kind of hold on for a while and see if we couldn't work with a citywide program and be a part of the pilot program. So we've now put in our time this past year with that, attended the meetings that Mr. Michelson talked about, and we're probably more ready than ever. Mr. Salazar will talk about that. We have moved forward in our licensing canvassing and some other things that would really fit well with this. We do have some concerns, and one of the things that we spoke of 19 or 20 months ago when speaking with the board was the fact that our fine amounts are small. ACE is a big number. Then they had talked about a $250 minimum, and we felt that was just too high. And we have had some success. That was lowered to $100 just for us as a start. But we have some fine amounts that are $40 and very small. Our average revenue transaction is very small. Our margins are very small. We felt it was critical. We're on a mandate to fully recover all our costs and to be self-sufficient. And so the ability to work with a contract is very critical to us. And to have access to the data, to be able to use handheld citation devices in the field, to focus on the officer, we have a number of critical concerns. And so we're just hoping to have the ability to do this in the citywide system.
Can I just interrupt real quick? What I handed out was our department's recommendation to the board to have its own department-specific ACE program, which we then transmitted to the mayor's office, and it was released and heard before the PAW committee. The PAW committee wanted to put us under the larger ACE program, which we are in now. That'll give you some background. I should have given that to you earlier, but I just wanted to give you the reason you have that document before you.
So we were ready then. We're more ready. We're readier now to move forward and feel that we've actually committed ourselves. We've committed in the 2014-15 budget to generate $200,000 in licensing revenue to help pay for our program. So ACE is instrumental to sort of beginning to teach all the neighborhoods and all the communities that enforcement is serious business and not a pay-per-view kind of idea.
I'm not sure exactly what to say, because I think the exchange between Mr. Wolfson and Mr. Zaft was excellent this morning. He raised a lot of very good points for the department. I am thrilled to see the commitment of the Attorney's Office to work with us on this and allow us to have our own types of forms and begin to curtail the burden that works for us. Our officers, frankly, need a tool that works out in the field well with the community to bring us resolution to the issues that we're dealing with every day. We continue to run into citation challenges with the court systems. The court systems also have reduced a number of personnel and has added to only some of the confusion out there, and we get a number of citations that are continually rejected by the court systems and kicked back for various reasons. This will give us really a means to be able to effectively manage some of the enforcement out there, and we're thrilled to have the opportunity. With that, I just wanted to kind of point out a couple of highlights for me with this program. As I became involved with it last year, the only meeting I was a part of at the Attorney's Office was middle end of last year. The theme with that meeting really seemed to be one size fits all, and I'm thrilled to see that we're not going to make one citation that works for LAPD and works for our department and two other departments, that we're going to be able to develop a citation that will work for us. What's important about that is those citations, the appearance, the delivery, the clear instruction on the citations, what the potential future penalties might be if somebody doesn't come into compliance, a clear reinspection date, and that really is a big difference between us and LAPD. They're going to cite a number of people and never see them again. We're going to cite people and we're going to see them again because we want to see that the animals are being cared for and that the violation has been brought into compliance quickly. I'm also pleased to hear that we are going to be, at least maybe unsolicited recommendation is to have an outside vendor work with us on the process. I think that's important, again, to get us up and going. There are some agencies out there that have specialized specifically in this and have very quick turnaround times so that we can answer the public immediately when they call up the next day and say, hey, I got a citation, and anybody that picks up the phone will be able to pull it up on the system and say, well, this is what it's for, and this is what your date is, and this is what it's about. Those things are very important. This meeting that I was at last year with the attorney's office, I think I was the only person in the room that had any experience with citation programs. I've worked for a number of different agencies with that. I've not only helped give guidance to other agencies, but I've helped develop and implement citation programs. I was very concerned about this program as it began because I know the agencies that the program was kind of formed from, and there's challenges with some of those processes there. So I brought these to our department's attention and said we really need to get more involved with this and really help develop this program so that it successfully has liftoff for us when we put it into play. Our officers are chomping at the bit to be able to have an A citation work. I want to make sure that it implements effectively and quickly and is something that is very useful right away. A word of warning with all of this too, I'll tell you from my experience as well as we're going to get busy with these. We're going to start writing them. We're going to start getting a lot of public attention with them when it does come into play. But you're also going to get busier as well too because they do generate a lot of phone calls because the fine violations escalate very quickly if the violations aren't corrected. So we've been in discussion with the attorney's office on some areas of how to help mitigate some of that, and we're hoping that these items will be able to come into play. But it does become an in-house process. It's no longer the court that's getting the phone calls. It's us that are getting the phone calls. So we want to make sure that it does implement successfully. Hearings are important. The volume of hearings that we'll have are going to be considerably high. And people only have one hearings. They want to have them now. They are going to have some type of victory or partial victory versus